There's a reason why house hacking is such a go-to strategy for so many new investors. And if you think about it, you can live for free, or at least very cheap, while you get started in the real estate game. If you aren't familiar with this real estate strategy, I'm gonna break it down for you. Let's say you have a multifamily home, 2 units, 1 unit on this side and 1 unit on this side. This could be when you live in 1 unit, yet you rent out the other unit. Now, it doesn't have to be this type of home, but this is what we're talking about here. This can also apply to if you have a 3-bedroom home and you're just renting out 2 of the other rooms and living in 1 room. So you guys all live in the same home. It's basically just when you live in the same property as your tenant. This can also even apply to renting. I see some people rent out a home and then they just rent out the other rooms or the other unit to somebody else. You can get really, really creative with the strategy. And I've seen people make some great money doing this. So we're gonna break down the pros and cons of this strategy in this video. It's actually easier to finance a real estate investment property if you plan on living in the home. You can get a conventional mortgage. You can get an FHA loan. You don't have to jump through hoops and get really creative with the financing, because if you're just buying an investment property, say a multifamily that you don't plan on living in, you might not be able to use conventional financing. You don't have to get as creative if you plan on living in the home. Another pro is it's way easier to be a landlord, or at least start being a landlord, if you currently live in the home with the tenant, because you don't have to worry about traveling to your rental property. You also know what's going on with the rental property pretty much at all times because you're living in it. So you can really keep a close eye on that rental property and on the tenants. Some people also found that house hacking is a great way for people to live in a more desirable area, or an area that they've strived to live in, but it has made it more affordable for them because they're able to cut the cost or have no cost while living in that desirable area that they've always wanted to live in. So I have seen some people get into locations just from the strategy alone. But let's not forget, with every real estate strategy, there are going to be some cons. So let's talk about what those cons are. Some people do not like to live with their tenants. They don't want to be near them. They don't want to be on top of them. And they want to keep their private life private, and they don't want to be near them. Now, if you're talking about a multifamily, you can still do that while living in a 2-family or a 3-family home and have your privacy, but some people just don't like it. And I do see both sides of this. I think there were times in my life where I would be completely fine with house hacking. And there are also times in my life where I wouldn't be okay with house hacking. So it really depends on where you are in your individual situation. Another con is sometimes it's actually hard to find a house hacking property. Now, I'm a real estate agent in the Northeast, and I do have to say I've sold house hacking properties myself, but they have become harder to find. Multifamilies as a whole aren't the most inexpensive type of real estate because they are in high demand for people who want to get in the landlord game. So sometimes some people who are looking to get into this real estate investing strategy actually have a hard time finding a property that makes sense for them. And I also mentioned that some people do this strategy so they're basically living for free, and their housing costs are basically paid by the other tenants that they have. This used to be way easier than it is now. I have to say that now I don't see a lot of people getting their housing costs completely covered by the tenants, and they do have to still pay something on a month-to-month basis to live, but it's much cheaper than if they were paying everything themselves. So it really does subsidize the cost for them, which still makes it very worth it, because as we all know, housing pretty much everywhere in the nation right now is at an all-time high. As a real estate agent, I do advise my clients to do this strategy all the time if they feel like this fits their lifestyle, because that's going to be important too. But it's a really, really great way to get into real estate investing and become a landlord without being so intimidated by the process, because that's a huge problem that I see with new real estate investors today. They want to get into the real estate investing game and they want to be a landlord, but they're so intimidated by the process. And because of that, they're kind of at a halt in their real estate investing journey, and they don't take action and move forward because they're so scared of being a landlord. I do think that this is a really, really good way to kind of break through that fear for you. And I do have to admit, this is one strategy that I did not do as a real estate investor myself, but I really, really, really regret it, because there was a time in my life where I was contemplating it, and I wish so bad that I could go back in time. And I did do that for a few years, because it's not something that I would do right now with where I am in my life right now, but there was a time and place where it made a lot of sense for me to do that. And I saw a lot of other people making money or living for a very, very low cost or for free. And I could have been one of those people, but I didn't do it. And I don't want that for you if you're considering this strategy. I would love to know, would you ever consider house hacking? As always, I just love hearing from you guys.